So I'm curious from your perspective what your thoughts are on those false prophets on the left versus the right.
He wants to know what you think about Joy Reid and Candace Owens. That's what he wants to know. And
I'd rather talk about Joy Reid because Candace Owens is, most Black people hate her. We'll just seconds on her. No Black person listens to her. She's there. There's always someone like her who gets prominence, money, book deals by espousing views that other Black people hate. So that's all I have to say about it. Joy Reid's more problematic. She's part. We've talked about the corporate media. MSNBC I think, is more dangerous than Fox News because it gives the impression of being progressive when it is not. It's like the Democrats' channel. And, when Trump was president, it was so easy. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. You could always oppose something he wanted. But speaking of Julian Assange, you should look for this video of Joy Ann Reid and Melissa Harris Perry on MSNBC. And it was, it wasn't Assange, it was Edward Snowden. And around that time, they went, Melissa Harris Perry talked about how Snowden should turn himself in. And they both interviewed, what is his name? The gentleman from Iceland. I can see his face. Sigurdsson. What is the man's name? Anyway, none of us can remember.
Sakarzian or something like that, I think.
What is the WikiLeaks man? This is terrible.
Whoever's watching right now, if you know the WikiLeaks guy from Scandinavia, definitely put it in the chat. That would be great.
They interviewed him, and it was quite awful. So their allegiance is to the Democratic Party elites, to neoliberalism, to imperialism. So when you have these, that's the danger of people like Trump being given any prominence. They're the perfect foil. So you can rail against Trump. How hard is that? But at the same time, oppose foreign policy that helps other nations, impose policies of peace, not speak up about the forever wars, not speak up about the military spending is 60% of the discretionary budget in this country. It's why we don't have nice things. It really is. You can talk about infrastructure, healthcare, education. You cannot have it if you spend that much money on the military. But that's the kind of thing that Comcast will not let Joy Ann Reid or anybody else talk about.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great point because it's not getting enough airtime right now, but I'm sure you're aware of all the farmland that Bill Gates is buying up. I think it's important that...
And are you talking about here or are you talking in Africa?
Well, it's all over the world, quite frankly. I mean, when you think about it, the biggest reason why, we have the military reach that we have is all about controlling natural resources all over the planet. I mean, that's what this is about. That's what it's always been about. And it's not about, making sure that this country has the resources that it needs as a nation so that people can live a comfortable life at the expense of people around the world. That would be horrific if that were the case. But in the reality that we live in, it's all about the oligarchs and making sure that they have, it's like they're playing a game of Risk. That's what this is. It's one big game of Risk.
It is.
I wanted to ask you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, I was trying to find the WikiLeaks man's name, and that's making me crazy.
No, I was just going to ask you. I mean, this is something that I've said for years, which is it's interesting to me that people don't recognize the connection between violence abroad and violence here. And I've said this for years. You cannot expect to not have the level of gun violence and the level of stuff that we have in this country when we're such a violent nation. Like it's just those things are completely disconnected. Obviously, people in this country do not get enough information about exactly how violent we are across the world. I mean, that's a huge part of it is that people don't even know what's going on and what we do as an imperialist force. And that to me is so strongly correlated to police brutality here. I just, this complete imperialist, militaristic thing, it's across the board. And I know you have thoughts on that and how those things are connected as well.
Yes. Man is named Kristen Hrafnsson, Hrafnsson. I'm sure I mispronounced it, but now I feel better. I got it out of my system. Kristen Hrafnsson from WikiLeaks. Anyway, so yes, violence. You know, people think, a lot of progressives make a mistake in thinking that, for example, Bernie Sanders, well, you know, he espouses some imperialist policies, but what are you going to do? He's saying the right things about this country, but you're not going to have injustice abroad and have justice here. It's an impossibility. Yes. You cannot have a system that's going to be fair here, but unfair to the rest of the world. We've talked about the amount of money spent, 800 U.S. and NATO military bases all over the world. The U.S. military is the biggest polluter on the planet.
By far.
You can't have, and then they, inevitably, they literally bring it home with militarized policing. This 1033 program, this Defense Department program that brings military equipment to police departments, all little podunks have armored vehicles. You know, all they have is one town drunk and they've got armored vehicles. Why? Yep. But that is what we get when we allow militarism to run our political lives. And that's something that we organized against a lot of Black Alliance for Peace, blackallianceforpeace.com, sign our petitions about Afghanistan, for example.
Yes.
Trump, for reasons I'm sure are not noble, was working on a peace deal to draw down at least some of the soldiers.
Black Alliance for Peace.
Yes, still in Afghanistan. So sign our petitions about Afghanistan, about Haiti. There's huge protests in Haiti. They never make the news here. But that's because there's a U.S. puppet in power, and the U.S. wants him to stay, even though according to their own laws, he should have stepped down already. So these are the kinds of things. The U.S. can't impose sanctions against Venezuela, Syria, Iran, Cuba, Nicaragua. I'm sure I'm leaving countries out, which deprive those countries of money, which punish any country that want to defy the United States. So people who live in Iran can't get cancer treatment. People in Venezuela, they can't sell their own oil. People are going hungry. People are going without medicine. You cannot allow those things to happen and expect to have a good country here. If the U.S. feels it can be an occupier all over the world, then the police here feel they can be an occupier in every city and town.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.